Once again, keeping and talking with global leaders, we are excited to portray and to talk with people that are bringing the boundaries of what means humanity at the moment, especially in the borders of our physical items and our digital items and the technology that are the tools of our times. So I'm very excited today to talk with someone that is on the bridge of all these different areas, and as well as been building a couple of fantastic technology and products that have been used by global giants, but as well a platform that I think is key for what is happening in everything that is happening in our times. So I have here Cevat Yerli, visionary video gamer, developer, technologist that has been crafting a lot of different areas of metaverse and computer technologies. And they start actually from the age of 12 and has been established the TMRW Foundation, and as well the GFACE social gaming network, and amazing things that I mentioned on the bio and the different things that we are going to be talking today. So Cevat, a pleasure to have you here and an honor as well. Let's kick off and tell us about yourself. Of course, I read the bio before here, but I want just to have coming from you, your background, a bit of your cultural background as well. You are a citizen of the world with different cultural backgrounds, and a bit of your experience.
First of all, thanks so much, Dinis, for having me for this invitation and for this exposure and the ability to talk to you and share my words through you to the world. Thanks again. And like I said, this is my first recording as well. It's a great way to kick it off. And what you're touching on, and with the metaverse and so much more. And what we will focus on in the metaverse this year will be a transformative year. Many people are looking at AI and metaverse and blockchain as key topics of this year again. That being said, my background, I've been programming since around 12 years old, and I'm a son of an immigrant, a Turkish immigrant who came as a guest worker about 47 years ago, 2 years before I was born. Came to Germany and brought the family over, worked as hard as it possible. I was born then and 2 years later. And what happened is, to an unexplainable way, he had the idea to buy us a computer as kids. And as a guest worker, you can imagine at that time, buying a computer was like not reachable, right? He saved every month some money over a period of almost 3 years, and then was able to buy us a Commodore 64, which was the first device that me and my brothers were exposed to at the age of 6. And once we started playing all kinds of games at that time, and started to discover, like after you play all the games, you wonder, hey, how did they do these games actually, right? And when you ask those questions, curiosity develops. And I was still young at that time, but I was dabbling in the command interface of Commodore 64, which was basic programming interface. But with the age of 12, I really grasped concepts of programming, started to grasp them, and got into programming, right? And that opened up an entire new world, thanks to my father's foresight by buying us and buying us a computer and creating us the exposure to technology. That changed my world at that point, right? And alternatively, my career could have been maybe a soccer player, right? I was an avid soccer player at that time. I was playing in a variety of elections and then working my way up. But the key thing was that it was soccer as a hobby or computers as a hobby, and computers have won. And I started to look into technology and like by figuring out how do they make animations, how do they make this and that. And I thought, hey, I might be able to make better games than that. Of course, it was a very naive perspective at the time. You never know what you're getting into once you ask these questions like you think. But one of the greatest strengths of being a teenager at that time or being an entrepreneur for that matter, at any age, is this naivety, right? That makes you indirectly fearless, because if you knew, you wouldn't do it, right? You knew how hard it is, you would be a fool to get into it, actually, right? But because you don't understand, and you have this curiosity wins against the unknown. And in this way, I got into programming, and we started to build our very first project. It was like an economic simulator. Don't ask me why economic simulator. And then the second game was like Thai boxing game, of all kinds of games. And what was interesting about these games were we were plotting 3D graphics, Amiga at that time, but not by using a 3D engine, but by plotting graphical lines. So we would draw them on a paper, and we would tell the computer to plot those lines as per our drawings. And you get 3D factories or 3D companies, but very like just linear, right? Like a super low res outline. So, and sometime for the Thai boxing game, we actually had built motion capture. Like we were recording a friend of mine fighting in a like not fighting, like making moves in a sports tip on a camera, and then I would record frame by frame every single image, open them in up called Deluxe Print back in the days of Amiga, and I would cut out all the moves in the background. I forgot to put a green screen in the back in the past, so I would record I would clean up hundreds of hours of video material and cut out the fighter. And we had something that was more advanced back then than Mortal Kombat, for example, or like Mortal Kombat, the very physical fighting game. Long story short, those games, they didn't really make it because I was too young. I was doing school, but those technologies were superior than what were existing on the market, and that kept me going in a sense. Programming is like, for me, was like the expression of any idea, but combining it with art was where the magic started. Like you can program logic, but then you have to pair it with an experience like art or design in that sense. Design, we call it back that idea. I didn't know there was a job even called game designer. We would just call these ideas that you just build, right? But at the end of the day, I kept going back to technology. It was about better animations, faster algorithms, right? And that hobby, that self-learning, like where you learn from typing, where I learned predominantly was not just asking the question how pros are doing it, but there were magazines that you used to buy, right? Not like online websites where you used to buy for a few euros or dollars. And so pocket money is saving, right? Once a month you'd buy this magazine. There'll be several pages of code that you would type out, and there will be a program appearing on your screens. And this way of programming was a very powerful way of evolving, because once you programmed, you typed it, then you start to change it and you made it yours. Like you modified it. And all of that led into, eventually blended into the time of internet, when internet arrived. And when internet arrived, first memory I have still is super high phone bills. Thousands of dollars of phone bills, which almost killed and ruined us because we had no idea how expensive it was. We had a modem, and I was just spending so much time on the internet, not knowing how much it cost at the time. But the experience was that you were in those news groups, they call them, forums effectively today, and outright messages say, "Hey, is anybody close in my city that wants to program games?" There'll be nobody. I would even make job announcements on newspapers, local newspapers. Nobody would respond. Eventually, I would put out online, and I got people from Belgium, from Russia, from US reaching out to me and say, yeah, I want to join your group as a hobby. And that hobby became slowly what is today called GITEX. So that hobby turned into about 50 to 55 people working with me for a period of several years as a hobby on several different online games. Now, the funny thing was we were working remote, right? And this remote work led to some amazing work. Like we had prototypes that today would be the core of Far Cry, right? The video game franchise. We had technology prototypes that led eventually to a CryEngine development, right? But all those prototypes were experimentations online and remote across the world, just like during COVID, what happened, right? But at that time, it was the most unheard thing in the world. Like, what? You had teams in the internet, right? In fact, what happened was, and we'll probably segue it in a separate way, but what happened was at some point we had a prototype which I showed to our first commercial producer, the publisher, Ubisoft, and he would say to me, "Where's your team?" I'm like, "In the internet." And at that time, Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, would ask me, "How's this working?" Like, well, we're working over the internet, right, remotely. It's like, oh, that's at that point, rightfully, he said, "Oh, that's too risky. You guys need to be in office." Right. But I'm just saying that part because like 20 years later, the world went to work on the internet, right? So yeah, this is so my background. It was soccer or programming, and it ended up, thanks to my father's foresight, ended up in programming, and that formed my entire character. I would say that and a bit of Star Trek and a bit of civilization video games. My favorite game of all time that I keep playing regularly. And I met Sid Meier at one point, the creator of Civilization. I told him, because of you, I'm making games.
It's amazing. So going through your career is really impressive because you created the president and CEO of GITEX in
Right.
1999, and then you went until 2016 as the president and CEO. Then you are still a major shareholder on GITEX, and you've been there involved. Then you created Tomorrow Foundation in 2017, and as well you've been working since 2020 on the Room 3D. So tell us a bit about how you push this part of the fan and the technologist and as the business world part. It's quite impressive how you kept these two worlds working together and you created a global footprint in gaming that is unique, okay, from the people you've been working, but as well the success of the games and the success of the technology and the graphics and all the different parts of innovation that comes out of that.
So when we built CryEngine, it was the world's first modern 3D engine. Unity, Unreal, they all followed the same ideas of what you see is what you play, we call it. Before CryEngine, the engines were a lot more turn-based. So effectively, you moved around things, and then you had to wait for lights and shadows to be calculated, sometimes hours, till you see the results. CryEngine was the first one in the world to give you what you see is what you play, meaning that it finds graphics all the time. And that philosophy was paramount to our way of working and the way we shaped the industry. With that, all 3D creation is based on what you see is what you play. There's not one single 3D creation anymore, 24 years later, that has been designed like that, right? So CryEngine was instrumental on inspiring lots of different creators and engines to work in this new way because it empowered people. I always said that drawing, imagine if real time is like a human right, is your human right, right? Because you live in real time. And when you draw a pen, imagine you write your name, and then you have to wait 5 hours to see the name drop, right? That's ridiculous, right? So creation had to be real time. So, and then with that, of course, many more games of which was in Crytek, but as the games kept getting bigger and Crysis was one of the most landmark games in the PC gaming of all time, where the graphics were like 10 years pushed forward, and NVIDIA and AMD sold a lot of GPUs because of kind of crisis. Like they sold billions of dollars worth of graphic cards because people were upgrading their graphic cards. But what happened also is that we reached a certain quality of graphics that at some point became close to movies, right? And we were getting more and more interest from Hollywood in 2010 and 12, but also we were getting interest from all industries, in fact, including the security forces, including the NASA, you name it, Adidas, car makers, like literally every one of them. And I'm calling them out without a problem because it is what it is. Yeah. And what's interesting about that is because they wanted to use the engine for beyond gaming, right? But I was like very much focused on my games at that time. My kids were born, and when the kids were born, my twins, and like a switch was flipped in my head, and I was like, okay, it's not about what you want to play anymore. It's about them now, right? What is going to impact their future? And it's not going to be just more games. And we started to question the world, right? What are the big trends in the world? Urbanization and climate change, right? Digitalisation, IoTification, 4G, 5G, gamification, lots of big trends, right? And we realized that, hey, there is something related to our core business, which is gaming and 3D. And we think that I derived a thesis in 2012 that effectively the world will be full of gamers and you will play your lives. Okay, that's a shortcut. Everything around your life will be gamified because gaming is the only interactive media that allows you to learn after making a mistake. And if you want to evolve humanity, you need to let them play as much as they can to evolve faster, because reading books and going to school is an alternative way of learning, but not as efficient as an alternative real-time feedback session. These are games by definition. And so interactivity and interactive response for right and wrong, giving instant feedback like games do, is a way how you can improve your healthcare, your finances, every aspect of your life. These were the cases we put out there. And we were like, okay, how we could actually experience the entire world like this? Well, we have to gamify our world. We have to create virtual twins as a layer of the world. We have to think about augmented reality, virtual reality, lots of different confluences of ideas. But when you are creating 3D technology at that time already 12 years, and not just one you're creating the most advanced one, you are thinking now 5 to 10 years into the future. And we were thinking back then that effectively the entire world by 2025 will have a virtual twin there, will have all IoT will be connected, et cetera, but we are not at that trajectory yet, but that's inevitable, right? And so we realized that gaming is not just for gaming. Gaming is for greater good. Eventually, gaming will be, the philosophy of gaming will become a global language. Today, you have 3.5 billion gamers. I think in 10 to 20 years' time, you will have 6 to 8 billion gamers out there. Every age from a 2-year-old to a 100-year-old. And there's an average age of a gamer being about 40. You're going to have pervasive experiences that will speak the language of gaming as opposed to the language of digital. Today, digital is the language for digital natives to access what was analog and be more efficient, but gamification or virtualization is going to be the language that gamers will be accessing the world with, right, on all aspects of their lives, right? So that's what I believe is in the future. And out of this notion, to be a little bit more focused than everything, which is like too big, we said, what about the future of the internet, right? And then we came up with Interal Life. After information in Title 1 and after social media, we thought it's all about life now. It's about, like, you got information, you connect the people, now it's about getting together. And it's a very social dynamic. That's what we do in life. We got information, we hear about somebody, we we might get in touch, exchange contacts, but then eventually we get together, right? And why do people get together? To improve themselves, to improve the world, to improve a company, business, environment, whatever it is. The only way you can improve something is when at least two people get together and exchange information. And with that philosophy, we said, what is if we unlock that power as our pillar of our perspective of the future of the internet? Not about metaverse, not about virtual reality, but about getting together, right? Unlocking human potential to share space and transact for any kind of reason in 3D as if you're next to each other. Okay? And so this Internet of Life vision, we depicted as our perspective, our Web 3D vision, where we thought that the internet is going to go from 2D to 3D and from alone to together. A bit like the game industry, which was 2D when I started and alone when I started, and then went together in 3D, right? And so for me, that's how I look at the internet. But it for me was, but how can we be together, right, in a 3D space? And the answer was initially, with 3D cameras, volumetric capture, all of this. We've done all of this, but guess what? Too heavy and too pricey and too much infrastructure costs, etc., and not practical enough, not scalable enough. So we dumped down to the webcam and said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have AI and a video bringing you together into 3D spaces. And out of this initiative, our first manifestation was born for collaboration and cooperation in the likes of Teams and Zoom and or Google Meet, etc. So we built Room as a 3D world's first Internet Live application where 3D communication is introduced, where people can get together in 3D spaces, and mentally, at least from an experience perspective, feel as if they're together. Right? The closest thing to being together. For me, the future of the internet is about bringing people together. It doesn't mean it's the only internet. I'm not saying there's no internet 2 or 3 or 1, right? But the expansion of the internet, allowing now businesses, communities reach out and bring people together in a new way is very powerful, because that's what we are intrinsically. We are social animals. We need to get together. And if I can get together with people at one click away, and I can do it with 20 different nations in one day, that's powerful, right?
So you touched a lot of things, and that can, I think we need to do a second take on this. But before we go to a lot of topics, because a lot of topics are very dear to me and we're doing a lot of similar things, but let's go first through the achievements of yours, because it's quite impressive what you achieve. And for people listening to us, we're going to put, the team will put videos to show as well. So I want to highlight this, and of course I highlight in the bio introduction, but from the games that you created, we're talking about The Climb, Robinson, The Journey, The Collectibles, The Rise, The Son of Rome, Crisis, Feeble, Warface, Crisis 2, Crisis, Far Cry, and you launched as well the TMRW Foundation. So it's quite impressive things for any achievements. And as well, you are one of the biggest authorities in games in the world. So just let's go on your side as an entrepreneur, because I'm interested on this in the channel. We touch all these ideas, but as well people. And of course, one beautiful thing as well is that you build this with your brothers. I like that there's a family component as well on this. So tell us a bit, how do you went from Germany and starting to this to build a global empire that touch some of the biggest games organizations in all the personalities, but as well how you cope the creative side with the technology side and the continuous innovation, and as well the business. So I want to touch that in particular. And if you can highlight a bit of some of your corporate part, because I like to touch this on the business side, and then I have a lot of things I want to touch. And you already mentioned about Internet of Life and the TMRW Foundation.
Yeah. So first of all, maybe what I want to cover is, if you look at what was for me the biggest challenge as an entrepreneur in all of this, right, was I always said that if you don't innovate, you risk your company, right? If you don't see, like where people saw risks, we saw opportunities. And where people didn't see anything, we saw blue ocean, right? And what I mean is that as an entrepreneur, your job is always to question the reality, like question what's around you, what's given. I teach my kids early on that even the bedroom when they're 3 years old said, you can change your world. You know that, right? They're like, what? You can move around things. Really? Like, there's a mindset I want to inspire here that you can change everything if you want. Everybody has the power to do that. But creating change can be small and big, of course, and it depends on what you want to tackle. But when it comes to our games, we were like I said in Far Cry, we wanted to be the opposite of any other shooter. So we went from dark colors to bright colors, etc. Like I said before. And in every single game, we had a major innovation driver that would be a challenge between the art and the tech, the design and the technology evolution. And people were asking me the question, Cevat, what comes first, technology or a game? And I said, we create technology-inspired game. So tech is inspired by the desired game, but tech has to be built to build the game, right? So the game is inspiring the tech, and the tech is inspiring the gameplay. So it's tightly linked to each other. You cannot separate this. Now, mind you, there are games that do not require a lot of tech. I'm not disqualifying that. That's a different angle. What we do is heavily inspired by tech. And that led to an ever-evolving quality of curve of technology that made our games look more and more real and turn into blockbuster productions, which reach global amount of gamers, right? And but the biggest learning out of this is that, for me, is that everything is possible in like when you create a game and you solve all the different levels of nuances of problems, big ones, small ones, detailed ones, you realize that everything is possible. And the limit is your imagination. We never encountered a technology problem. It was always a matter of, can you imagine it? Like, how far can you take it? Right? And also, how far are you taking it when it comes to the entirety of the experience? Not just, I have a vision. No, it's not enough. You have to work all the thousands of steps through to make that vision happen. Right? So realizing your vision is the hardest part. There's lots of people with vision, but turning visions into reality is a whole challenge in itself. And then once you've done that, selling that reality is another challenge by itself. And so when we look at entrepreneurial challenges in this, we have growth challenges. Like you go from team sizes, you go from first 5 people, then 10, at about 20 things change. The way you deal with your team changes. Then you reach about 50 people and changes again. And 100 people are like, oh my God, enough is enough. Change it again. And they're like, 200 people are like, oh my God, too much. Yeah, and then you reach 500, and then it's like, okay, but I like the way it was before.
Yeah, this is amazing, and thank you so much. And why did you create the Tomorrow Foundation? And tell us a bit. I think it would be good for you to explain your multiple companies for people. Of course, we have all this, but coming from you, so the companies you own, what is the Tomorrow Foundation? We separate one.
Yes, and Tomorrow Foundation is hopefully my last lifetime project. I devote my entire energy into this because Tomorrow Foundation is what I call a for-profit foundation. And it sounds negative when you say for-profit, right? But it's better than a for-profit business. So what is the difference here? And I'm not saying putting any slack on for-profit business. For-profit business is great. Foundations that are non-profit are great as well. But my angle was, I wanted to do a company that does not make profit at cost of people and planet. I wanted to make sure that we can show that we are a social responsible, people empowering, planet improving organization that can make profit. Right? That's call it the company design, right? Where when you build technology, because the reason why I found it was, remember, I said like my twins were born, it was all about them. And for me, we were questioning then all the different giga trends like urbanization, climate change, identification, gamification, etc. And we thought, is there a way to improve climate change? Is there a way to improve improve quality of life of people, right? And that combined with the amount of gamers globally at that time when I was 2012, there was like 1.5 billion gamers. Now that doubled in the meantime, right? And that trajectory is a non-stop trajectory. So when you go 3 to 6 billion gamers out of 9 billion people, you have a planet of gamers, practically. So then you say, okay, that means that the world has to run on a 3D engine or engines to give you all kinds of services that speak the language of gamers, right? And so, but since that reality did not exist, a foundational approach had to be done, right? A Tomorrow Foundation was to respond to this vision, which we realized 2012. And it took me a few years to get out of operational Crytek, because Crytek was at that time over 1,000 people. And getting out of this operation and leaving this cushion and in a sense and building a entire new take on the world from zero was an extremely challenging thing, as you can imagine, because you're in this machinery that operates and building lots of games and technology, of constant meetings. But my mind started to drift into the Tomorrow Foundation because it was more important to do. It was about technology, like a CryEngine, but not like CryEngine at the same time, because it had to run on the internet. It had to be like accessible to everybody. The CryEngine was like a super high-end engine. Like it would be the most demanding engine in the world, the most high-end engine in the world. But the internet needed one that was accessible to everybody, was the lowest cost for the engine, right? The opposite, effectively, of this, right? If CryEngine was Formula One, I needed to have like a Volkswagen. I needed to have the most affordable and the most accessible technology. And so, since Crytek wasn't that, and there was the army of people working toward that direction, I had to build a Tomorrow Foundation. And the lens of decision making were my kids. What is good for them is going to be good for the world. Because parents don't compromise when it comes to the kids. They want the best for them. But it's not about buying the best stuff. It's about making their life and their education as good as possible so they become the best version of themselves. So, and we talked about what kind of technology we can create to enable that, right? And so foundational technology had to be built. Interal Life was born out of this at a grand vision. And the Interal Life for the internet, including Reality OS, was born out of that. Tomorrow Foundation is about building technologies that are accessible to everybody, independent of socioeconomic background, independent of where you are, which time, color, skin, religion, because it's only about your potential, and bringing these people together for all kinds of purposes, meaning that it could be for the simple thing of there's a 3D shop and I'm getting in and I want to try on clothes with a video cam, or it's going to be a collaboration in a room, or it's going to be a doctor visit, or it's going to be about renewing my ID because I lost it, we are working on this kind of projects with several governments. It's really about bringing people together for all kinds of reasons, because that's what you do on a day by day. If you dissect your 24-hour cycle, there could 6-7 hours you get these people together physically often, but now it's more and more digital, right? And we want to empower the human capital that's available across the world. But people are disadvantaged by location, but the power is still here, right? So now we can bring those people together irrespective of their background and luggage. Because when they're in the internet, they're luggage free. Just like when they play games, by the way. When you are three guys together, or girls, guys, three members in a team, and you're fighting aliens together, doesn't matter where you come from. You just have a good time, right? You're exchanging playtime. And in knowledge doesn't know religion or color or politics. right? Knowledge is to be shared and to be learned from each other. And if you can empower that for all kinds of parts of your life, like I said, health, e-commerce is yes, it's there, but really it's about healthcare, education, networking, collaboration, entrepreneurship. This is what we are most excited about, and also supporting governments to reach the citizens in a new way. Um, so its mission is about empowering people, and the more they use the technology, the better the world will get, because the less you travel and the less you need to use carbon emission, the more you contribute to each other, the more you contribute to economic distribution.
And it's really impressive, and congratulations for that. That's the reason I wanted to do this interview for some time. Let's touch about some of the concepts that you touch. So the TMRW Foundation vision for the future of human togetherness is the Internet of Life, the evolution of the 2D that connects with Web 2, and the immersive interconnected 3D spaces of the web next generation, and powered by the Reality OS. So you touched some of these areas, but like you said, at the moment there's 3.6 billion people playing games every day, and the numbers probably will go to 4 or 5 billion. And you touch one thing as well, that is the gamification of society. So for you and me, this is a concept that we are all completely in. But tell us a bit about this, because of course you are one of the people that made this gamification possible with your games, and as these games became mainstream. But that's still a big challenge, because like you said, and I was actually going recently in a big discussion with some global experts, is the challenge that people like you and me are completely digital. We are completely advanced and we're building these technologies. And most of the people, in one way or the other, are playing or engaged on this. Because if you have a phone, you have some kind of gamification interaction. If you have some sensors, you are already interacting on that. And even your phone is interacting with you, whether you want it or not. But the challenge is that there's a huge paradox. You mentioned your children. I normally, my daughter is my benchmark and my children for anything I do. So I'm completely with you on that. But the challenge is that we are exceptions. And the paradox is that, for instance, I always repeat this number, there's 400 million business SMEs and micro SMEs in the world, and around 90% don't have any digital presence. So there's still a huge digital divide, and there's still a huge lack of education on these areas. For instance, my stepson did a course in computer science, and it didn't have anything about AI, anything about gaming. And I was, okay, for a university, and I'm not talking a small university, but I don't mention names, I get nervous, because if you don't have anything on this in the university, okay, there's something wrong. Right. But this is happening, okay? So I know that what you try to do is precisely bridge this, but tell us about the challenge, how you deal with this, and you touch the concept. So we'll repeat this as well. So I'll just repeat Internet of Life concept, Reality OS, which I love the concept, and as well the idea of the unlimited potential of human interaction, because with AI, especially Metaverse technologies and spatial computing are here. But most of the people, even talking about Metaverse, they get afraid that is some crypto craziness. And I'm talking, for instance, I had a meeting with was with a partner of mine that is our age, and he didn't have a clue about anything I was talking about, although he's our partner. And ironic, there was a minister that he understood everything. So sometimes you have some exception, but there is an exception. So I just want to touch this because I think it's very important. Yeah, he was actually from the UAE, but you know what I mean. It's a key element. And you are in the UAE right now. There's a reason for that. There's a huge, but this is actually a big paradox, because the Western world is becoming older, and I interview a minister in this podcast that hardly knew how to use a computer. So it's this kind of things that are important for us to touch, because I want to demystify this, and actually your work with the TMRW Foundation is precisely try to solve these problems. But it's important for our audience to understand that yes, we might be the passion and the guys in this, but most of the people have a clue.
What is gamification, right? If you think about that, the biggest social game in the world is called Instagram right now. And Instagram, in a way, is a bad game. I tell my kids, stay out of this game. It's not fun. When a game is not fun, it's not a good game. But this is even more worse this Instagram is all about people posting, sharing. Now, the intentions were good, by the way, right? The intention was like, hey, share with the world an update. But with the invention of liking, like likes, everything went into a drug addiction in a sense, right? People are posting to get likes. They're not sharing because they want to share. They're sharing to get likes. And if they don't get likes, they get depressed. And to maximize their likes, they create fake lives, fake moments, and then fall itself in depression. And I mean, there's lots of statistics about where you will see trends, and this is another topic, but where suicidal rates correlate in the teenagers since the invention of social media and the usage of it. But again, that's a different topic. But what I'm trying to say is gamification is not a new concept. It's been used in a bad way in social media. But if you were to use it in a good way, where you give response and feedback, for example, one game in a very simple way of gamification is an app called Duolingo, as some of you may know, right? Duolingo is a great language learning game, right? It's a gamified experience of learning languages. And there's so many different apps out there that I see my kids are using as well, and they're learning lots of great things about languages, and yeah, generally they go fast, they grow faster in those games, and then they go into school, right? And which is telling, right? If and I always say, by the way, when kids go to their mobile phones and computers instead of reality, instead of the school, that means reality cannot compete with the mobile phone.
Yeah.
School does not compete with the real. If school would be as exciting, they wouldn't want to be on the phones. Or if reality would be more exciting, they wouldn't want to be on their phones either, right? So it's really about competition for attention. Phones are easy, of course, to go to, right? Because that's where your friends are. But if reality is boring, the moment you make reality exciting, it will go to reality. And if you make reality gamified and also education gamified, that's where you start to really win the kids. I think gamification has to be seen as a feedback loop. For in a fun way, knowing that you're doing right and you're doing wrong, and give scores and points, and drive competition in a friendly way, and then let everybody who is using it, even citizens of a government, right? Like citizens can learn how to save electricity via gamification, right? Or how they can reduce their carbon footprint, like over gamification. But the governments have to inspire and support that too, right? Yes, it's a bidirectional way. And so gamification is very powerful from the simplest way of, and powerful in a sense of it can be negative, like in social media, but it can be also powerful in a good way, like language learning and other topics. And then more advanced gamification is not just the feedback loop, but also the experience of being in 3D. And advanced games bring people together in three-dimensional spaces so that they can overcome challenges together, right? They collaborate. They don't even know they collaborate. They learn puzzle solving, many games. And I used to incorporate this in all my designs, that the gamer had to be better off the game when he left than he was when they started the game, because it was all about training the mindset, solving problems, overcoming challenges, like being tactical, strategic about certain things. And most people didn't know what kind of values they took with them, right? But they feel good about it. And the key of designing games is you tell a story, you entertain, but really you're teaching something, right? It's like you're teaching how to, like kung fu fighting, or how to be a commander, right? Or etc., depending on which game it is. But gamification is powerful from that regards. People in charge need to understand the power of gamification design and the responsibility of gamification. And if unleashed correctly, I am convinced it can single-handedly, within 5 years time frame, elevate society's quality, like knowledge, and can elevate society in a sense. Just like, and we are the proof in the pudding, by the way, as I say. My team, my first team at GITEX, And most people don't know that. When we built Far Cry, 80% of the team had never done a game before. So the only reason why we were able to build a game that was a #1 in the charts, despite the fact we had never done a game before. Most of us was no professional. How was this possible? And the only reason why is because we had an engine that was gamified itself. Anytime you gamified in the sense you could see what's wrong immediately in real time. That real-time interactive loop made us faster and more developed than anything we could have done in schools or whatever. And it grew us as developers. So we could make the same game much faster, and we could make 100 mistakes as opposed to competition where they do like 10 mistakes in the same amount of time. So we could do 10 times faster, right? And this way we were able to grow as human capital, as mind, and actually build a game that was as good or better than the best ones in the world. Now everybody's shocked about it. How come that team that had never done a game before, as a team, it's yet build a game that was better than most commercial games? It's like you're assembling a soccer team and then you're winning against Madrid or Manchester United, right?
Let me touch that. It's a very, very interesting thing. So do you think that success? Yeah, that success you think was because of your capacity to integrate the gamification technology and experience in the process?
It's about integrating real-time, iterative environments, real-time and iterative responses, which are the core elements of gamification, right? If you bring that into society infrastructure, society interfaces, right, and speak the language that people are using in games more and more, yeah, and it's inevitable in a decade from now, but it's starting. We already have 3 billion gamers, don't forget. Even today, if you bring people into a 3D website where they can do certain things together in a light game-like way, this will be more convenient and more efficient than a 2D interface anytime today already, right? And so the key message here is that governments, businesses, small or big, will need to start using gamified or game-like experiences to reach their customers, their workers, their partners, their clients, etc., in order to create more efficient outcome.
No, it's very, and I think this is the key element. So I know that we're passing the time, but I still have a couple of more questions, and definitely I want to do a round two. So one of the things you've been doing, and there was a video of yours, is the scaling the Metaverse economy, and that's what we're talking. At the end of the day, talking about, we call it Metaverse economy, or 3D economy, or special computing, and in your case, the Internet of Life in a lot of ways. So from this work, and I know that you did a big project with the UAE government as well to create something around healthcare. You touched about ID. So from the projects you've been doing, and there's a project, of course, of the room. Tell us a bit more, first of all, some of these projects that you want to highlight, and you touch a bit them, but which one the ones that you want to leave as your heritage and the ones that you think can actually solve some of these problems? Because the challenge, like what you and me are doing, both in this channel, is creating awareness and knowledge about personalities and about the achievements, but as well teaching people, because this thing I'm learning every day. So most of the people are not conscious that I have to gamify my own knowledge and my own, and if I'm an expert in one area or two, I need to keep learning. So I want to learn from you on that, but as well the from the product perspective. You mentioned the games, and the games are quite famous worldwide, anyone that is in gaming, but some of these more cutting edge projects like the room, like the Internet of Life concept, and a bit more deep dive on this. And we'll put links and images on this for people listening to us.
Yeah. One of the things we looked at was when we designed it, Interal Life is our vision, as our light beacon of our company. We looked at the numbers today, right? And you had 3 billion gamers, you had 1 billion people working from home at that time. So we like statistically, that means about 400 million people are playing games and working from home, right? So we thought that is our initial market, or total market of overlap, where they should be very comfortable in an environment of game, and they should be reaching more value out of it. And out of this came Room, targeting that 400 million addressable users, where when you give them a game-like environment and allow you to go in as a video version of me, not as an avatar, as real deep social presence, like face-to-face feeling and sitting next to each other feeling and looking at each other feeling, that, like, when I know that you're sitting across the table and we can look at together the whiteboard, that's the closest thing to real life. This inspiration by reality is what drives us as well, because this idea of skeuomorphism, where digital cop is inspired by reality, right? Skeuomorphism was used from Steve Jobs when he built the first touchscreen interface for iPhone, right? But he used a lightweight version for it because it wasn't about 3D. It was about a bookshelf looking like a book, like his book interface, right? Or like a music player was looking like music, etc. So it was inspired, or a calculator looked like a calculator, right? So people knew what to press because removing the keyboard was a new concept. So he said, okay, I'll put on the screen something that looks like physical, right? So digital imitated physical, and this skeuomorphism, we're taking it further into 3D space and into social space, where social 3D skeuomorphism effectively, where we say, what happens in real life? Where do people get together in real life, right? To collaborate and communicate. And usually it's like brainstorm sessions and stand-up rooms and meeting rooms and conferences, like working environments. So we said, okay, let's build all kinds of spaces like that, where there's decades of training mentally when you enter that space. When you enter a meeting room, you don't question what's happening in that space, like what's happening in that UI. There are chairs, people are going to sit there, and there's a table, there's a screen, right? People know what's going to happen. So that's natural learning. The reality is inspiring a digital experience and teaching you what to expect. And so you sit down, you sit there, you see other people sitting, joining on the line, and your mind, by the way, memorizes these. And that picture, that theater of your mind, that way of recreating your mental model is what is driven from real life. Like, what I mean is, like, we remember, what has happened in reality in a spatial way, in an emotionally connected way. We remember where information comes from, this direction and that direction. You were sitting on my side, he was telling me that, she was telling me this, right? That's how you remember experiences. And we are replicating that in rooms, so that when you have an experience in a room, you remember where the people were sitting and from which direction they were talking to you. And that's something that forms our neurological image and our memories. Our memories work like that. So Room is the first application digitally that mimics real life from that perspective. And so with tapping into that, it makes it less tiring experience. Even though there's a word called Zoom fatigue, not
Yes.
coined in by us, right? But scientists were telling that why Zoom makes you tired, et cetera, or video conferencing. And again, it was never meant to be used at that large scale and large meetings, etc. It was supposed to be like one-on-ones and so on. But this Room, we overcame those Zoom fatigue problems because we have spatially reorganized the meetings, and we made it more lifelike, right? And we bring you into that 3D spaces, not avatars. Games, they don't have any fatigueness problems. If you play 2 hours of games, you actually are pumped up, right? As opposed to 2 hours of typical video conference meeting, you're dead for the day, right? The effect is you need a break. But in a Room, when you are in an hour, 2 hour session, it's actually not tiring at all. It is much more like playing a game. And so that's why we think that gamifying the video conference experience and putting it into a 3D environment is going to be a very big deal. And Room is in a soft launch right now. And we're very excited about its future. We have soon to be announced another initiative that will challenge or upgrade our broadcasting experiences for all kinds of podcasts and show productions. We want to make it very efficient for people to have their own studios and share with the world their knowledge, their wisdom, And again, we believe that Interal Life is about sharing information and bringing people together. In that very spirit, this new technology will be announced very soon. And Interal Life as a platform, the mission of that is to turn the 2D and the lone internet into 3D and together internet. And I'm very excited about that potential to open up the platform for all kinds of websites in the world, turn into 3D spaces for all kinds of reasons. Law firms, consultants, shops, like maybe even Amazon wants to do a 3D shop, or Apple.com, like every .com, .de, .org, whatever domains, because the point is technology runs on the internet, does not require VR headsets, does not require any special hardware. When we talk about scale of economy and scale of Interal Life, and Metaverse Economy, the key here thing is that we don't require you to buy new things. Our strategy from the beginning is that it's all inclusive, right? Inclusive as in it includes you, it uses your device that you already have. All you need is a browser and you're in the future. Right? Browser that most of you have since 5 to 10 years already, right? So Interal Life will open up later this year as well for developers to then build their own versions. They could build room competitions. They could build all kinds of things they want, right? We don't mind whatever they build. I mean, if they compete with us or not, but we're building showcase companies like Room and the other one and a few other ones this year will be announced. But the underlying technology is really what we die for, sort of say. It's like we live and die for this one. There's a few other things that the TMRW Foundation is doing beyond that, but this is a whole new other quote.
No, it's really impressive, and congratulations for all of this. And I'm seeing a lot of possibilities. So to wrap up, and I have one last question as well. Then probably I really want to do a take two, and we'll take some parts of this for people listening to us, and we'll put it as separate videos. But we'll put videos as we speak. So as Cevat is speaking, we'll see the videos. But from your experience with a couple of decades building both technology, games, and as well as a thought leader and as a business personality and dealing with thousands of people working for you, and as well with big organizations, what would be the challenge that you think you can change? Because like you mentioned, these technologies can create a lot of wealth, and effectively there's a lot of wealth. But like you said, there's still a lot of digital divide. There's still a lot of challenge that we are facing as we go. So how can we, people listening to us, get into this? And if you are young or if you are a professional, use this to fund your business, to scale your business, but at the same time to make your life better. Because in the end of the day, whatever you like it or not, your children are playing this, or your friends or whatever age group you are, they are all on this. But sometimes people fragment this and they don't use it for their 360 personality.
Yes. The key thing is, of course, value, right? You need to create value. I always tell the team, the most important thing of an entrepreneur is not to drink his own Kool-Aid, right? Like not to be convinced by yourself, right? But to convince others, right? By creating value, right? It's not about selling, it's about teaching and providing value. Here, the key thing is that Room does provide an improved communication value, right? Less tiredness, more efficient way of reaching people, more convenient. And that's the key, right? And if you talk about the potentials of Interal Life, every aspect of our life can be 3Dified, can be improved for bridging the gaps between connecting people digitally. No, you can now get together, right? In a real face-to-face. And of course, all of that has to be then super accessible, meaning that in order to close the digital divide, if you want, it has to really be making sense for the person. Whoever needs to come on board needs to find and see value. And if we are not showing this value yet, then it's a matter of time. Either he pokes us and say, hey, can I use it for this reason? Well, we haven't thought about that yet, right? And then we might have to do some adaptation or some SDK improvements and things like that, API improvements, things like that. But eventually, it's all about empowering people. And I'm convinced that the power of 3D and the power of sharing you digitally with somebody else and getting together has almost unlimited power, right? And The question then is like, okay, what do we do now? How do we package this, service it, and how do we make this truly tangible for everyone, right? And that's a long journey. Like I don't think this is a matter of weeks and months. It's a matter of many years, and we are in this in for the long run. Yeah, we are here to stay and make sure that whoever jumps on that journey gets to build out their own powerhouse, if you want, in 3D. And I think this can be a catalyst for all kinds of new forms of companies. I think the 3D internet with people in it is going to empower very, very few big companies too. I mean, the ones that don't exist today. Right. So the transformational power of 3D is, we have seen it in video games. There is no 2D game anymore. The big 2D games are all now 3D, right? And 3D games showed them how to do it. And then 2D games start to become 3D as well. All right. So in the same token, the internet will turn 3D. The metaverse, the way we see it, right? The internet of life is about interconnecting the web, but that's already existing. You already have an interconnected web, right? All you have to make sure is that those interconnected addresses have 3D destinations that are a bit more interoperable and sharing a bit more protocols. But step by step, we will get there. The traditional metaverse concept, the way I see it, is more about escapism, right? And metaverse is more about, like traditional metaverse, it's about games, interconnected worlds for entertainment, for movies, for watching, playing, etc. But it's really not about empowering people. It's not about getting together. It's about escaping from reality. I want people to get together to empower the world and empower the reality as opposed to escaping it.
I love it, and I completely subscribe with that. So, Cevat, I have a lot of more questions, and I want to touch probably in a second interview the digital twin, because it's a concept that I'm working a lot. So first of all, well, congratulations for all your fantastic achievements. It's really impressive, and for people listening, please research Cevat. Research his work, Tomorrow Foundation, learn. He is a fantastic teacher. There's the videos on YouTube as well from him. That's his YouTube channel, the Tomorrow Foundation channels, and as well the products, because there's a lot of opportunities that can be used. And I think especially in the education, there's so much you can learn with someone like him, and he's very generous with his time. So Cevat, it's really an honor.
Thanks.
There's a lot of things I will push for the second round, but I'll go more technical. Second round will be, well, we'll do a face-to-face, but I want to do a digital, mostly really go more deep in some of the concepts because it's very interesting. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
We can talk about digital twin as well. Yes, we have lots to share there as well. Looking forward to it, Dinis. Again, thanks for having me. This has been lots of fun, and I'm grateful that I could share my words with you and your audience. So I look forward to do more. So thank you so much.
The honor is mine.